The 2023-24 season had marked the end of an era, as several iconic coaches in Serie A left the league. Some former Scudetto winners departed mid-season, while others moved on in the summer. Massimiliano Allegri's dismissal in the spring in particular would trigger a domino effect, as Bologna coach Thiago Motta stepped up to fill the vacancy at Juventus. And Vincenzo Italiano, Raffaele Palladino, and Alessandro Nesta all benefited further down the food chain. Milan and Napoli, meanwhile, turned to coaches with prior experience of Serie A, albeit with varying degrees of success. It wasn't just coaches returning to Serie A. Venezia and Parma were back in the top flight after just 2 and 3 years away, respectively. But it had been more than 2 decades since Como had last graced the top division. They say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Hence why Inter stuck with coach Simone Inzaghi and the bulk of their Scudetto winning side. However, a pair of individual mistakes would cost the Nerazzurri 2 points on the opening weekend.
It is a goal for Genoa, and surely now it is a point as well.
The pre-season title race conversation had centred around 4 teams, but only one of them would impress on the opening weekend, as Milan stumbled and Napoli fell flat on their face.
Napoli have not only been beaten, they've been embarrassed here at the Bentegodi.
So Juventus's opening statement win reverberated even more.
Cambiaso going himself, beauty. What a night this has been for Juventus.
It was still August in round 2, yet a couple of shock defeats piled the pressure on the coaches of 2 of Serie A's biggest clubs. Milan buckled at the Tardini, as Parma ignored the pecking order. Elsewhere, a stunning performance from Empoli in the capital.
An hour gone at the Olimpico, and Empoli lead.
Rocked the foundations of Roma's rebuild under Daniele De Rossi. Inter had pummeled their rivals into submission the previous season, and the champions again exposed Atalanta's glass chin.
Barella! How good is that from Niccolò Barella?
En route to a 4-0 win ahead of the September international break.
Thuram is there again. He scored again. And in just his 3rd game in this early season, Marcus Thuram already has 4 goals.
After overcoming Milan, Parma then edged ahead in Naples.
Boni scores. Ice cool from the Frenchman.
But a reckless surge from Suzuki would prove costly. As Conte's men harnessed the Maradona atmosphere.
And here is Romelu Lukaku, of course!
To seal a dramatic comeback victory.
Sombogisa! They've done it! 2 goals in added time have turned the game around for Napoli.
With just 1 point from 2 games, Paulo Fonseca needed a win as Milan boss. So his decision to leave out star players Theo Hernandez and Rafael Leao was nothing if not bold. And moments after the pair had seemingly gone on strike, Milan struck.
Now Theo Hernandez for Tammy Abraham, offload, Rafael Leao! Instant impact!
But ultimately, the Rossoneri would return from Lazio with just a point. Although Juventus could claim a goalless draw against Roma was a decent point, a second consecutive stalemate, this time at Empoli, was anything but. Speaking of Roma, a first goal for their big-money summer signing Artem Dovbyk had the Giallorossi on course for their first win of the season. But the winter was coming.
And would you believe it, in the 96th minute?
To spell the end of the De Rossi reign. Also in round 4, Milan finally got the win they were craving. And Inter hit a roadblock at Monza.
And what a header that is from Dani Motta!
So the Rossoneri would only sit 3 points behind the Nerazzurri heading into the derby. Former Torino boss Ivan Juric had been spotted at several Serie A grounds in matchday 4. But it was at the Stadio Olimpico where he would next appear. As the new Roma head coach defeated surprise league leaders Udinese in his first match in charge.
Dovbyk! The goals are flowing now for the Ukrainian.
Milan had lost each of their 6 previous derbies against Inter. Yet more courageous coaching from Fonseca paid dividends as an unlikely hero had the last laugh.
Rangers with the ball in. Gambia! It's a Milan Academy graduate, and he might have just won the derby.
It was clearly a good weekend for the underdogs in Lombardy, with Como's first victory coming at the expense of Atalanta. Matchday 6 saw the big guns all get the job done, while Matchday 7 had a bit of everything. Having waited until October for the first hat-trick of the Serie A season, 2 came along in back-to-back matches. As Inter's number 9...
And there is Marcus Thuram's first Serie A hat-trick.
...emulated Matteo Retegui in taking home the match ball, to leave both players neck and neck as early candidates to be crowned capocannoniere. Retegui completed his treble from the penalty spot, but in Florence there was a hat-trick of missed penalties.
De Gea is quickly becoming a Florentine icon.
In a crazy game of football that culminated in a crucial victory for Palladino's Fiorentina over Milan.
Crashed home by Albert Goodmanson.
That victory for the Viola would spark a lengthy winning streak, as Raffaele Palladino's side smashed 6 past Lecce, the other side of the October international break.
Cataldi lines it up,
And what a strike that is!
While elsewhere, Lautaro Martinez ensured Inter would defeat Roma.
Lautaro Martinez! It's the skipper who comes good with the goal.
And Monza finally got their first league win of the season. Fiorentina had never looked so potent, following up their 6-goal haul at Lecce with 5 against Roma to leave Ivan Juric in big trouble.
Bove, Roma through and through, scores Fiorentina's 4th.
But the highest scoring match of the weekend, surprisingly, came in the Derby d'Italia.
Here's Denzel Dumfries. He snuck it in.
With Inter leading 4-2, Juventus was staring a first league defeat of the season in the face, until a teenage superstar single-handedly snatched a point.
Kenan Yildiz! This is remarkable. He scored twice off the bench for a quite preposterous scoreline at the Meazza.
Milan's match at Bologna was postponed after devastating floods in Emilia-Romagna. Meaning the Rossoneri began their midweek meeting with Napoli 8 points behind the league leaders. A gap which became 11 after an old foe tormented them once more.
Lukaku is through here. Lukaku! He always scores against Milan when he's playing for an Antonio Conte side.
Juventus needed to come from behind twice at home to Parma.
Juventus have been carved open time and time again.
Just to preserve their unbeaten record.
Timothy Weah applies the finish.
It appeared Conte's Napoli would take some stopping, but Gasperini's Atalanta knew how to halt the Partenopei, as Hien locked up Lukaku and Lookman grabbed the spotlight.
And here's Lookman!
Ivan Juric was already on shaky ground, and the Roma boss slipped to defeat at his former club, Verona.
This is Abdu Haroui! Jubilation for Verona! They've won it with 2 minutes to go!
To leave his position hanging in the balance. Matchday 12 would spell the end of Juric's brief stay as Giallorossi head coach. With a 3-2 home loss to Bologna sealing his fate. Further south, Lecce ran out of patience with Luca Gotti, with the Salientini in the relegation zone. Milan made headlines by handing a full debut to 16-year-old wonder kid Francesco Camarda. Yet Gabriele Zappa turned on the style in a crazy 3-3 draw.
Zappa peeling away!
Juventus confirmed the Derby della Mole was theirs to dominate, as Kenan Yildiz paid tribute to a former Bianconeri great.
Kenan Yildiz! A nod to Alex Del Piero on the day that Pinturicchio turns 50.
While the meeting between leaders Napoli and champions Inter ended all square.
He's never missed one for Inter. It is Çalhanoğlu, he's missed one!
On a weekend where Atalanta, Fiorentina and Lazio all took maximum points to leave the top 6 separated by just 2 points after a dozen matches. After the break, who would be top of Serie A at the halfway stage? Although Alessandro Vogliaco's late equaliser in round 12 had rescued a point for Genoa against Como, it wasn't enough to save his coach, Alberto Gilardino, from the sack, as the Grifone hierarchy used the November international break to appoint Patrick Vieira as the latter's successor. From a firefighter in Liguria to the return of a wily old fox in the capital, where Claudio Ranieri was installed as the leader of the Giallorossi pack for the 3rd time in his legendary career. Ranieri began Roma Mark III at another of his former clubs, Napoli. Yet ironically, it was a Roma old boy,
Lukaku! Who else but him tonight?
who scored the winner for the Partenopei.
And he gives Conte's side the all-important breakthrough.
Juventus were in the midst of an injury crisis, which partially explained their conservative approach. But just like the Bianconeri, Milan were also off colour. While Ranieri had lost his first game in charge, Vieira had drawn his at home to Cagliari. Whereas the 3rd new hire, Marco Giampaolo, made a winning beginning at the Lecce helm.
Good-looking cross to Dorgu! A goal out of nothing for Lecce.
And at the Bentegodi, Inter once again showcased their breathtaking attacking potential, courtesy of 5 first-half goals against hapless Verona. Unexpected title contenders have begun to emerge come the start of matchday 14, thanks to lengthy winning runs. Atalanta had taken a giant leap forward a season earlier by winning the Europa League, and the men from Bergamo had retained a spring in their step.
Flicked in by Zaniolo. He was determined to score tonight.
To bring up 8 victories on the bounce at the Stadio Olimpico. Lazio were also being talked up as possible pretenders to the throne. But their streak would peak at 5 following a first defeat to Parma since 2012.
Charpentier. Haj Mohamed! What a moment for the youngster! His first start for Parma, his first goal in Serie A.
Like Atalanta, Fiorentina were also on a 7-game winning run. But any debate about how far the Viola could go was immediately overshadowed by a medical emergency, which put everything into perspective. Edoardo Bove collapsed after 17 minutes of Inter's visit to the Franchi, leading to the match being abandoned. And the player would later recover at hospital in Florence. Napoli retained their ruthless spirit, narrowly edging out Torino.
McTominay! It's brilliant from Scott McTominay.
While Rebic upped the ante for Gianpaolo to secure an unlikely point against Juventus. Added time had cost Juventus 2 points at Lecce, but the shoe was on the other foot for the old lady when they pegged back Bologna late on.
Mbagula! The 20-year-old completes the comeback for Juventus.
Giampiero Gasperini opted to leave out Matteo Retegui for the visit of Milan. But his other 2 tenors were on song for La Dea in another headline win.
And Lookman scores! 4 minutes from the 90-minute mark.
Lazio had already defeated Napoli's second-string side in the Cup 3 days earlier. And Gustav Isaksen was on target at the Maradona to topple Conte's strongest 11 too.
Isaksen with space to shoot! Wonderful goal!
Claudio Ranieri, meanwhile, finally unlocked his players' potential in a convincing 4-1 victory over Lecce.
And that's wrapped it up for Roma. The 4th goal on the night, scored by Manu Kone.
Juventus needed another equaliser at the 11th hour to cobble together a point and deny Venezia their Cinderella story in Turin. Milan went to town in preparation for their 125th birthday, but their Jubilee performance on the pitch was nothing short of diabolical. After a step forward by defeating Lecce, Roma took 2 steps back at Como.
Gabrielloni for Nico Pass! An evening to savour for Como.
To raise concerns over the prospect of a possible relegation battle. Yet, where there were losers in round 16, there were also winners. And how? Napoli had sealed the Scudetto in Udine 2 seasons earlier. And it was in Friuli where they would get their title push back on track.
It's been a blitz in this second half.
In Sardinia, another Zaniolo strike sealed a club record 10th consecutive league win for Atalanta. Finally, Inter dispatched Lazio 6-0 on the Biancocelesti's own patch.
Volleyed home by Di Marco. And Inter in the clear now at the Olimpico.
To drive fear into the rest of their challengers. Atalanta would be top at Christmas thanks to a star turn from Charles de Ketelaere against Empoli.
And it's moments like that that make Atalanta believe this could well be their year.
While Napoli remained on Ladea's shoulder, after two-headed goals did the business at Genoa to inflict a first defeat on Patrick Vieira. Roma hadn't won away all season, but the Giallorossi partially made up for that shortcoming with a 5-goal haul at home to Parma. And Marcus Thuram delivered a dazzling finish to bring up a dozen goals.
Marcus Thuram, this would kill it off!
And move level with Retegui as the league's leading scorer. And with Monza bottom of the league following a 2-1 home loss to Juventus, Alessandro Nesta was relieved of his position. Inter were first up the other side of Christmas, cruising to a comfortable win at Cagliari with Lautaro Martinez finally back amongst the goals.
The wait is over for the Inter skipper. His first since early November.
After 11 straight wins, Atalanta were heading for defeat at Lazio.
Through it goes for Dele Bashiru, who's in!
But if to err is human, on this occasion, to draw was divine for Ladea.
Lookman is there, so too is Brescianini.
When a point made sure they would finish 2024 at the top of Serie A. Napoli therefore had the chance to join Atalanta on 41 points. Yet it seemed that the Azzurri had got the jitters at home to Venezia. Until a substitute sprang into life to save the day.
Raspadori! Conte turned to him when he needed a goal, and Jack has popped up with one.
Elsewhere, there was nothing subtle about Fiorentina's equaliser at Juventus.
Sotil rifles it home!
With another late goal hitting the Bianconeri like a ton of bricks for the third straight 2-2 draw at home. And one of the goals of the season from Paulo Dybala spelled the end for Paulo Fonseca as Milan head coach. Matchday 19 marked the start of 2025 and the halfway stage of the Serie A season. But Napoli were the only one of the Scudetto contenders in action, due to Inter and Atalanta's involvement in the Super Cup in Saudi Arabia. The Azzurri were without Kvaratskhelia and Politano through injury. But David Neres made it an afternoon to remember in Florence.
David Neres still going. Oh, that is a wonderful solo goal.
Further south, Lazio began the Derby della Capitale an unprecedented 15 points ahead of Roma. However, Claudio Ranieri had won each of his 4 previous derbies as Giallorossi boss. And despite benching Lorenzo Pellegrini in the weeks leading up to the Straccittadina, the veteran head coach had a hunch about his captain.
And it is Lorenzo Pellegrini with his first goal of the Serie A season in the biggest game of the lot.
And a Salamaca's strike made it 5 from 5 for Sir Claudio. Sergio Conceição had been appointed as the new Milan head coach, and he began life with the Rossoneri by winning the Super Cup in Saudi Arabia. but he would surprisingly drop points in his first league game against Cagliari.
Mignon spilt it.
That match was in round 20, which actually came before Milan's rescheduled matchday 19 fixture at Como.
Rafael to complete the turnaround.
The same was true of their fellow participants in the Super Cup. Beaten finalists Inter hosted Bologna.
Lautaro! Orsolini and hold! It's the equaliser! After 6 straight league wins, Inter drop points again.
And the two losing semi-finalists, Atalanta and Juventus, met one another in Bergamo.
McKennie, Kalulu! What was the centre-back doing up there? Retegui! He's back! Matteo Retegui is the most lethal marksman in the division.
Juventus remain unbeaten and damage Atalanta's title bid in the process. Bologna halt Inter's winning run, so the Nerazzurri can only match Napoli's points tally by winning their game in hand at Fiorentina. At the other end of the table, Monza and Venezia have real work to do in order to stay in the division. With a little under half of the season to go, it appears a 3-horse race for the Scudetto. Here's the best from Napoli, Inter and Atalanta so far.